This is the story of how 3 members and eventual masters of the Leathersellers Company were integral to the creation of one of the most important compendiums of maps in British history. My name is Georgia Sales, and I'm the Archives and Collections Intern here at the Leathersellers Company. Here is what we call the Speed Atlas, and it's actually a compendium of 2 different atlases, both by a man called John Speed, who was an integral figure in early modern cartography. This first atlas is the Theatre of the Empire of Great Britain, and it was published in 1612. It is also the first time that individual county maps of every county in Britain, that is including England, Wales, Scotland and Ireland, were put together. And some of the places that are mapped in this atlas weren't remapped at all until the 1800s, when the Ordnance Survey began operations. The second atlas included in this volume is a prospect of the most famous parts of the world, which was the first world atlas compiled by an Englishman. So John Speed was a tailor by trade, but he was a gifted cartographer. He was so gifted, in fact, that he attracted many sponsors and patrons. One of these patrons was actually Sir Fulk Grenville, later to become the Chancellor of the Exchequer. And 2 more of these sponsors were a pair of leather sellers named John Sudbury and his nephew, George Humble. And their first major project was the funding and eventual publication of Speed's magnum opus, which was the Theatre of the Empire of Great Britain. Sudbury became a master of the company in 1615, and in 1618 he retired. But despite his uncle's retirement, George Humble continued their print business. And in 1627, he funded and published a further atlas from John Speed called A Prospect of the Most Famous Parts of the World. Typically, these 2 atlases were bound as 1 volume, as is the case here. In here, you can see the title page for the Theatre of the Empire of Great Britain, and that's John Speed there, imprinted at London in 1650. And down here is Are to be Sold by George Humble. Across here, you can see the signature also of the engraver, Jodocus Hondius. He engraved this particular plate in 1614, and it's a plate of the royal arms of James VI and I. Overall, it was meant to signify a sense of unity, as James I did declare himself the uniter of Great Britain. This is a map of the British Isles. You can see here that they have very elaborate illustrations of London and Edinburgh as key cities, as well as images of the heads of their currency. In the sea are these animals here. They're known as map monsters, and Speed has made them quite thematic here. So up here we have the Scottish unicorn that's holding aloft the Scottish flag, and down here the English lion holding the English flag, and across here we have a griffin holding the Irish flag. Here is a prospect of the most famous parts of the world. This is a world map, and it's very ornate and elaborate, as you can see, which is part of the Dutch influence. This map is significant because it was the first folio map to include the famous cartographic mistake, whereby they thought California was an island for several centuries. You can see here that it's separated from the mainland of North America by an extended Gulf of California, as they had not been able to reach the shores of California due to its harsh weather conditions and prevailing winds. So I have open here the map of Europe. One of the common ornate designs that he put on the borders was these images of figures in their native dress. And over here we have an English woman, a Venetian, a German, a Pole, a Hungarian. And on the right we have a Spaniard, a French woman, a Belgian, a Bohemian woman and a Greek. And up the top we have some plans and skyline illustrations of capital cities in Europe. This particular volume was printed in 1650, which is after William Humble came into possession of his father's print business. Just 2 years later, in 1652, the Leathersellers Company enacted the bequest of Abraham Colfe to form a library at Colfe School, and this volume here was donated by William Humble as part of the Leathersellers Company's first batch of books that they added to the library. Prior to the publication of the atlas, John Speed was little known, but its creation reflects the way that leather sellers have, throughout history, recognised and supported potential where others haven't. The success of the atlas meant that by the time William Humble was master in 1653, he was ideally placed to have donated a copy to the Colfe Library. This helped preserve the legacy of knowledge for young people in Lewisham and the general public. What started off as a venture to create one of the most influential maps in British history also created a way to show why leather sellers place such emphasis on supporting education and fostering opportunity.